If you're struggling with your brain, welcome to the new normal. Today, our main topic is about mental health and the stigma that goes behind it. Today's topic is also inspired by an author. He's a psychiatrist, very well known. His name is Daniel Amen. He wrote a lot of amazing bestseller, New York Times bestseller books. I will leave the link below. If you are interested, you can learn more about it. But one of the things that he talks about, and these are his words, I want to give him the credit because it actually made me think a little bit differently about this topic. The end of mental illness begins with the revolution of the mind, of the brain. So do you see how I unconsciously went to the mind? In many of my videos, you will see that I am a huge believer in different mindsets and having a healthy mindset. However, after reading his books, I became even more conscious about how the mind is controlled by the brain. And the mind does play tricks on us. And that's the dangerous part of living our life without having the awareness of the tricks that our mind can play in different times. Unfortunately, we cannot control any of our thoughts. Our thoughts are a reflection of our brain's health at that moment. The only thing we have control over is to optimize our brain, because that's where all the thoughts are generated. And since we're little, we know the little implications our physical body has on our brain, and therefore it gets thrown at our thoughts and then our feelings and then our emotions and then maybe our reactions. And a good example of that is probably with food, right? And when you're hungry, the brain feels that lack of nutrition. You have cranky thoughts. We're often hangry due to that. So the only thing we can control at that point is intaking good quality food. And as you know, if we can control a very good diet, that will reflect upon the way we feel, the way we think, and we'll have a healthier mindset due to that. But today's topic is not just about that. Today's topic, it's truly, I want to dive in the subject area of mental illness. After reading his books, I got some data which was really interesting. It only reinforced something that I already had a suspicion, which is if you think that anxiety, depression, and having problems concentrating is something that is not normal, think again. It's actually very normal, because research shows that more than 50% of our population will suffer through these struggles with our mental health at some point in our lives. So it's safe to say that 50% of the population has mental illness at some point in their lives. And that could be any of us, or that could be any of the people that we are surrounded by. We often don't know who's suffering and who's not suffering. And that's why it's really important that we are conscious about other people's minds as much as we are with our own, because we do play a big role. We can actually really help someone else by offering a more compassionate and empathetic approach. And we can actually damage someone else's mental health by being mean or trying to manipulate someone's way of thinking towards our benefit, or gaslighting them and unconsciously doing these behaviors. Oftentimes, I believe people do it without even knowing that they're doing it. And that's why it's so important to educate in the subject matter, especially when you are working with other people. And we are all social beings. So it's really important that we start learning more about different habits and the consequences of certain actions and how it affects people's mental health. It's always the smartest people that actually asks for help, not the weakest ones. We as a society oftentimes show a lot more compassion for people that have other disease like cancer or dementia. But when someone tells you that they have anxiety or depression or any other type of difficulties concentrating, we often forget how delicate that is. When we suffer, say, depression, anxiety, or any type of illness that makes it difficult for the mind to concentrate, our brain turns against us. It's worth investing on two things: dealing with your trauma and dealing with your diet. Because I've noticed that there are that my audience also reaches younger followers, I want to say that it's almost a blessing to be exposed to a mental illness when you're young in your life. Only because if you learn to treat it early, you can actually live a much healthier life and be equipped to the heavier parts when life actually brings it to you. For example, if you are young and you have had anxiety or depression and you learn how to treat it, you learn how to ask for help, you've gone through therapy, and you know all the supplements that can actually help with your brain functions. And by the way, I will be listing all of them underneath. Dr. Danielle Amen also speaks very highly on them. Unfortunately, these supplements are all natural, so they do take 12 weeks to kick in. However, it pays off. I am not a big fan of medicine just because most of the times all these mental illness are due to conditions. And if you have something that it's genetics, just see it as a wake-up call and not as a death sentence. You're not supposed to deal with that mental illness your entire life. You are supposed to deal with it, treat it, and then live a healthy life without that illness. It's something that it's curable, but it just needs your focus. And when we understand that all of us are susceptible to mental illness at any stage in our life, we learn to live life differently. And what do I mean by that? You can take a lot of preventive medicine practices. For example, one of them is truly to protect your brain. There are a lot of things that can trigger mental illness. And if you go back and learn through your own traumatic events, and you understand that healthy boundaries are something that it's indispensable in order to maintain a healthy mindset, you won't think twice before not engaging in situations that you know that won't bring you a peace of mind. Another aspect of improving your mental illness is the support of people. And this is where I talk about our social responsibility. I talked about that in the beginning, but I want to end it with that, because having the right support with friends, people that you feel safe with, family members that you feel safe with, co-workers, colleagues, bosses, managers, leaders, parents. Half of your illness will be cured just by that energy exchange. You can do all the healing in the world. You can have gone through multiple yoga retreats and silent courses and meditate 3 times a day and be a gym buff, someone who goes to the gym all the time and very healthy in your diet. However, if you don't have connections that are healthy and that have made you feel safe at some point in your life, then none of that will work. There will always be a component that is missing, and that is the human relationship. We are social creatures. We are built to connect with one another. And there's no shame in that. It's something that we cannot survive by ourselves as much as we say we can. So understanding the part that we play in other people's lives is also something very important, because it also forces us to do our own healing so we can show up for others. The best way you can ever help someone else with mental illness is truly by role modeling a healthy lifestyle of your own. It's never by giving unsolicited advice and trying to fix them or telling them what to do, but it's truly about you incorporating all these good habits in your entire life. And when you do that, you not only help yourself, but you definitely help someone else that you don't even know that it's watching you. And that can be at any place in your life. That could be at your workplace, in your family, in your circle of friends, in your neighborhood. We all carry a huge responsibility, and our society is made by us. I'll end with, most people don't get the help they need because of the shame that they feel around mental health. I want to normalize it, because mental illness is something that will happen with all of us either early on in our life, which is always a blessing because then you learn tools on how to deal with it your entire life and you never really fall into that trap again, or it will come later. But it will come because life is hard, and life is made out of humans that are not fully healed. So the trauma is caused by other people that haven't done their work. And if you are a parent, if you are a boss, if you are a coworker, if you are a person in your community, and if you don't take responsibility for how you think and you act and you behave, and you can be toxic to someone else.